About 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. Finish your do now, turn your homework in, and interpret your objective. About a minute left for your do now. Okay. All right, so go ahead and put those do nows in the center of your table, please. I'm collecting them now, starting with table 5. Pen sounds good. Orange got his pen down. Ready to go? Jada has her pen down and ready to go. Shayla and Kiara and Byron have their pens down. So everyone's eyes should be up here. Byron. Okay. Put your notes away. Somebody interpret the objective for me. Kiara, what does it say?
I can compare and contrast people, places, and ideas written within them.
And what does that mean?
You can tell the differences between
Good. So you can tell the differences, sit up, and the similarities between different things. Everybody repeat after me. I can compare and contrast.
I can compare and contrast.
Here, I don't see that. People, places, and ideas within various texts. Very good. A little louder tomorrow, but very good. Okay, so we did our do now. We went over our objectives. We're going to do a short compare and contrast mini lesson, and then we're going to go into something that we've been talking about regarding segregation, comparing and contrasting that. And then you guys get to be reporters tonight and do a little bit of interviewing. Okay? All right. This should be fun. So, what we're going to do first is actually just look at our anchor chart and look at what comparing and contrasting is. So when you compare and contrast something, you look for ways that people, places, or things are alike or different. So similar or different. Compare and contrast, you look for related subjects that are being described. Have you ever heard the term comparing apples to apples? Apples to apples. So what that means is when you're going to compare something, you have to compare two things that are similar. You can't really compare an apple and an orange because they're two different fruits. Yes, they're fruits, of course, but they're not similar in color or taste. So you always want to make sure when you're comparing and contrasting things, two things, put your pen down on each other, you're comparing and contrasting apples to apples, okay? So search for words that signal comparison, such as like, both, and also. Can anybody think of another word that signals a comparison? Yes, ma'am? As well as, okay. Anything else? Yes. Or? So that's a conjunction. It is a conjunction, but how does it compare or contrast? Or compare, rather?
If you use a certain word to describe something, you could say or, and then you could put it in the actual definition.
Okay. Okay, that would work. Yeah, absolutely. Tanisha? Also. Very good. Also. So for words that signal contrast, there are ones such as although, however, unlike, but. Can anybody think of another one, Shayla?
On the other hand.
On the other hand. Okay, good. Good. So when we're reading text, we always want to look for those clues, those words that tell us if things are similar or different. Okay? So let's look at an assignment or a short passage real quickly. Of course, I already lost it. Who put a Venn diagram on your do now? Okay. So a Venn diagram can be used to compare and contrast texts or items. What else can be used? What other techniques have you learned that help you when comparing and contrasting texts? Pearl?
You can look on the internet to get ideas.
You can. Does anyone have any specific ideas? What did you put on your do nows? Durian, what did you put? What is one technique you've learned that helps you when comparing and contrasting texts?
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Good. Okay. read this aloud and model for you how I would compare and contrast the ideas within it, okay? So it says, read the following passage. As you read, think of what two subjects are being compared and contrasted. Look for words that signal similarities and differences, and look for qualities that are similar and different in the two subjects. So riding a bus can be a noisy experience. Ooh, that sounds like a topic sentence to me. That tells me a lot about what this paragraph or passage is going to be about. Besides the chatter of other passengers, the sounds of the bus and the road all compete for your ear's attention. The engine rumbles under the floor, the metal walls vibrate, and traffic roars outside the windows. So besides the chatter of other passengers, that I'm not going to worry about. The sounds of the bus and the road all compete for your ear's attention. Okay, so we're talking about a bus here, and we're talking about how it can be a noisy experience. And it's telling me that the engine rumbles, it's telling me that the metal walls vibrate, and the traffic roars outside the windows. So those are all things that I know about why this is a noisy experience. And then I'm going on to the second paragraph now. By using soundproofing techniques, bus manufacturers are working to ensure passengers a quieter ride. So in this second paragraph, I'm learning that soundproofing techniques will make the bus rides quieter, which is cool because I ride the bus a lot and it is loud. So how are we doing this? Spray on glue seals metal walls to prevent rattling. Oh, there's spray on glue seals. New floor mats, muffle engine sounds, and thicker glass blocks loud traffic noise. If only they could find a way to keep those passengers quiet. So again, we're talking about the passengers there, which really doesn't have a lot to do with the bus, just the passengers on it. Stuff, Denisha? Stuff, Denise? Kayla? Byron? So then I'm down and looking at this chart, and I know that I'm comparing a bus with soundproofing, to a bus without soundproofing. Okay? What are the different ways, and what are the things that I underlined? All right, so we're going to talk about the Electoral College today and the electoral votes. Not electors' votes, but the electoral votes, okay? This is something that's really important that you should know about because the election's coming up. Raise your hand if you know when the election is coming up. What is it, Diabian? November 6th, which is Tuesday, right? Who's running in our election, in this election? By raising your hand. Michael, who's one person that's running? Mitt Romney, and the other one is obviously Obama. President Obama, right. Okay, good. So I just handed out some information for you on the Electoral College. We're going to read over this together and figure out a little bit more about it. So write your name on it. This is information. So one of the most important events in American government and politics is the election of the President of the United States. And on Tuesday, November 6th, just like Diabian said, that's when it's taking place. And Americans were, ladies, I'm speaking. Raise your hand if you have a question. So the American people will cast their ballots. What's a ballot? Joseph, what's a ballot? A vote, right. All right, so this event is held every 4 years and is often compared to as a race, so a presidential race, right? This can be a race for president, this can be student council president, this can be any sort of election that's going on. So we say someone is running for office and that the presidential race is on. And so that's going to be happening. Now we talked a little...
George.
Uh-oh, something happened.
George Bush is the president-elect of the United States. He has won the state of Florida according to our projections. 25 electoral votes. NBC News projects that George Bush, it's been a night of first giving it to Al Gore, then taking it away on the part of the networks. George Walker Bush, the new president of the United States, the governor of Texas.
Okay, so I know many of you probably don't remember the election of 2000, but did you pick up on the state that they said won the election for President Bush? Did you hear which state they said won the election? Which one, Bree? Florida, right. So let me just fill you in a little bit about what happened. So President Bush was actually losing in the electoral votes, okay? I'm going to explain to you more about what that is in just a minute. But the electoral votes, he was losing. And it came down to Florida, which has 25 electoral votes, and he ended up winning 271 to 246. you have to have, and this is something you want to write down, you have to have 270 electoral votes in order to become president of the United States. You can write on this handout I gave you. So 270 electoral votes to win the election of President of the United States. That's a magic number. That's the number you're going to see on Tuesday night. 270. So let's 270. So let's go where it says, so how was our president elected? Well, that was a good question. I'm really glad you asked. So follow along with me. There's actually a system called the Electoral College that determines who will win the election. Often ignored, Americans had a lesson on the workings of the Electoral College after the 2000 election, the one we just saw the clip of. Al Gore won the popular vote, but George W. Bush became president. George Bush won because he had 5 more electoral votes than Al Gore. Because of how the system is set up, it is possible for one candidate to win the popular vote and the other to win the electoral vote. We're going to look more into what the electoral vote actually is in another clip. This is a good one. You guys will like this.
I'm Mo Rocca. Today, Electoral College 101.
Ladies and gentlemen,
who is voting for colored pencils? Okay. 10 votes for colored pencils. Who is voting for markers? 14 for markers. Markers have won the popular vote. And now we're going to have the real election. Naturally, they were disappointed. They thought we just had the election. But now it was time to warp these young minds by introducing them to the Electoral College. So we broke the class into 5 tables or states. The majority at each table, either markers or colored pencils, would get the table's 1 electoral vote. Of course, in real life, states have varying amounts of electoral votes, depending on the population. Table 1 selector, how do you cast your vote?
Markers.
Table 2 selector, how do you cast your vote?
Markers.
Table 3 selector.
Colored pencils.
In the end, the whole election came down to 1 state. Table 5 selector, Angel, come on down. This is it, guys. This will decide the whole thing. Elector, how do you cast your vote?
Colored pencils.
What's that?
Everybody should be fair. It's unfair. Because it's not just about the elector's vote, it's about everybody's vote.
Oh, Aubrey, you are a rabble-rouser. I mean, clearly you're trying to whip them up into a frenzy.
It has to be fair for everybody who voted for markers, not just for colored pencils. It's 14 to 10. It should stay that way.
Yeah, this guy's a dangerous reformer. You know, it's not like this happened in real life. Oh, actually it did.
They set up this electoral college business, and since then, nearly 1 in 10 presidents took the White House without winning the popular vote. Like me, John Quincy Adams.
I'm George W. Bush, and I like to think of myself as the education president, starting with my favorite college, the Electoral College. That's in Florida, right?
The key thing that frustrates people about the Electoral College today is that it sidelines and marginalizes 2/3 to 3/4 of the whole country. Most of us live in red states or blue states. Take our 4 biggest states. 3 of them are safe states. Texas, a red state.